Perfect. So as the numbers are starting to solidify and we've reached our designated start time, we're happy to kick off this webinar. Once again, I'd like to thank all of you for joining and for being with us today for this OASIS V3 training webinar. My name's Paul. I work at Intect, one of the companies who've co-developed the new OASIS platform together with IAQG. And before we get started, I'd just quickly like to set the stage for today. And first of all, I would like to introduce our two panelists that we have with us here today. First of all, that's Verena representing Intect, and then we also have Greg Fontaine with us representing IAQG. Greg and Verena are going to be answering your questions, adding value, and providing you the information you need additionally to the trainings we have prepared for you. So thanks, Greg and Verena, for being here with us today. Before we get started with the program and actually kick this webinar off, I'd also like to set the frame of what today is and what today isn't. So today, what's it going to be? What is it supposed to be? Today is supposed to be a technical training and basically a technical walkthrough through the new OASIS platform. So we're going to show you different segments of what you as auditors can do with the platform, how it works, how it looks, how you're supposed to do certain steps. And then after each segment, you're going to have this chance to ask questions. There's going to be a 10-minute Q&A section after each of the 4 segments. And to use that, you're going to have the ability to use the Q&A function of Zoom. You're going to find that located right at the bottom center of your screen. So you can click on that. It should say Q&A. And then you can just type in your questions. You can use that function during each session or afterwards as you're in the actual Q&A session. But as I said before, today is supposed to be purely about the technical side of things. So I would ask you to not ask questions about administrative and organizational topics for now. We do have a designated landing page that I will show you in just a few seconds, where you can go to ask those questions and where you will be provided information about specifically those topics. Perfect. So that being said, I'd like to share the program with you and tell you more about the designated landing page I just told you about. So under this link, you will find the official OASIS V3 landing page. There you will also find a contact form where you can ask questions surrounding topics like the release date or other, administrative organizational changes that you might be worried about concerning the switch to OASIS V3. So you can write down that link right now, but you will also see it again at the end, and you will be sent this link via email. So once again, all administrative and organizational questions, please direct there. And the landing page is also where you'll find the recordings within a week after this webinar. You'll also find all the other webinar recordings that we've held so far under this link. And yeah, it's going to be your go-to resource for everything OASIS V3. Also, just one more topic, because we've received a couple of emails about this beforehand. Today's webinar is going to cover the same topics as the first auditor webinar that we've held about 2 weeks ago. So if you've already attended the first auditor webinar, the first webinar training for OASIS V3, unless you want to refresh your memory or see the training again, or maybe, ask a question that you couldn't ask last time, of course, you're happy to join. But if you're expecting different content, that's not going to be it. So today is going to be topic-wise a repetition of the first auditor OASIS V3 webinar. That being said, let's look at the program for today. As you can see there, we're in the overview section right now. After the overview section, we're going to have a quick video greeting from 2 people who'd like to say hello to you. And after that, we're going to have, as I said before, 4 different segments that we're going to share with you. And after each segment, just as a repetition, there's going to be 10 minutes of Q&A time. And in the end, we're going to do closing, and you're going to be shown and given information for the OASIS V3 landing page one more time. Perfect. So with that being out of the way, I just want to remind you one more time, please use the Q&A function during the session. We're going to get started with the first session, which is about managing audit data and audit preparation right away. So we're going to start the segment in a little bit. And as I said before, you can use the Q&A function during the session or afterwards as we're in the 10-minute Q&A portion of this webinar.
I'm logging in now as an auditor, just by clicking on the sign in. This is the landing page. In this case, I just click on the icon on this manage and audit part. So in this manage and audit part, the auditor has in this main menu just the audit and reviewer portal. And this is where you can see all the audits. And then there is also a section for the finding. Let's start with the audits. You have here on the left side a filter possibility. So there are already some filters predefined. So to see new audits, to see open audits, to see audits where the findings follow-up is ongoing, and to see completed audits. But every user has the possibility to use filter, and there you have a lot of filter criteria where you can administrate new filters which show up then on the left side. So you're quite flexible here in this portal with filter possibilities on the audit orders. If I close that, then we can see here in this predefined new audit section that there are 2 audits which are assigned newly. They appear in bold. So you can see here, these are 2 new audits. The status is Auditor's Portal. If I would click into the open audits, then I can see here that there are other audit orders where the status is already in audit in progress or in audit order accepted. So here you can see all the audit orders which have been already accepted by the auditor. In the findings follow-up section, you can see the status is checklist finished finding workflow. Means these audit orders are, so that the audit has been conducted, but the findings follow-up is still ongoing. And in this audit completed section, you can see audits where the audit has been finished or the review is currently in progress. And in this section, the auditor is not able to change the audit data because the audit order is assigned to the reviewer. So there's just the possibility to open it and see read only the entered data. If I click on this new audit section, I have the possibility to select an audit. You see here the audit number, the reference number. So this is data which was entered by the CB entry admin. You see the OIN of the supplier, the name of the supplier, the standard which is relevant for the audit type. You would see other information like the audit date, the address of the supplier, and what was the CB who created the audit. It would also be possible to see in Google Maps the location of the supplier, if this is relevant. And it would be possible, if I click on this entity button, to see more information regarding the supplier. So if there is contact information or the address of the supplier, contact persons of the supplier. If there are multiple sites, then they would appear here. And if already previous audits or certifications was made, then you would have the possibility to see it here in this entity information. If you use this arrow, you can navigate back to the portal. And in this case, if this is a new audit, I have the possibility to accept it. So if I click on accept, then you can see it's gone now here in this new audit section, because here I have just audits which are newly assigned to me, which I haven't accepted yet. If I click now on this open audits, I can see here in bold, I accepted this audit now, and I would have the possibility to work now on this audit. I have here the audit which I prepared for the training. So I just select this audit and I have now the possibility to use the Edit Audit Order button. If I click on that button, I'm directed to the start page of the audit order. In this case, the auditor sees general data information. So who's the CB, and what's the address of the supplier, what are the audit dates. It's possible now here to enter the supplier representatives. So simply by clicking on the plus icon, it's possible to enter, in this case, for example, if I use the icon here, then I can search for contact persons which are already assigned to that supplier. So if the CB created contact persons, I can add them here. And I can define what's the participant type. I can click on Finish. If the supplier representative is not in the system, then it's possible to simply type in here the data. And I can click on Finish. If I would need to remove a representative, then it's possible to highlight the representative and click on this delete icon. In this case, in this audit team participants, if it was an audit with an audit team, they would show up here. And they would also have access to the audit. Now I can click on Save and Validate, and it would show me if everything was entered here in this start page. In this preparation section, you can see again the standard information. If previous audits or findings has been raised, they would appear here in this findings history. In this case, it's the initial audit, so no findings have been identified yet. If I click here on assigned sites, then I would see if there are sites which are relevant for this audit, and I can define if I also audited the sites. You would see here the number of employees and also the location, so the address of the site. In the process list, it's possible to add the processes. So simply by clicking on this Add New Row, it's possible to enter here the process name. If I click here again on Add New Row, I can enter here multiple processes. If I want to rename one process, then I can click into the field and I can rename it. In this case, let's add another process. If one process was too much, then I have the possibility to highlight the row and click on the delete icon. So here in this section, it's possible to manage the processes of the organization.
Perfect. So that was today's first session about managing audit data and audit preparation. I see that a lot of you have already utilized the Q&A function. For those of you who've hold it off to ask questions until the Q&A part, it is now. So you can still ask questions and we'll answer them as we go in this Q&A segment. Before we get started with it, let me just say one thing though. In the beginning, unfortunately, due to a small technical error, we weren't able to show you the introduction video we have prepared for you. And we're going to redo that after this part before we hit audit stage 1. So you will be shown it after this Q&A segment. Perfect. Verena and Greg, are you ready to take on questions?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's get started. The first question, actually, I'm going to answer. So somebody asked if the session is going to be recorded and if the recordings are available for download. And the answer to that is yes. All sessions are recorded. So this webinar is recorded and will be available on the IAQG OASIS V3 landing page within a week. There's already 2 webinar recordings on there, and you will be notified via email as soon as the recording is available. Perfect. So the next question is going to be for you, Verena, I think. What should the auditor do in order to accept an audit?
So the auditor would see in the new section that there is a new audit available. And then with selecting the audit, it's possible to accept the responsibility, and then it's possible to work on the audit order.
Perfect, thank you. Next question. I think this one might be for you, Greg. Will the information / audits be transferred from the previous database, or will both systems remain in parallel for a period of time? This also applies to started audits that are still open when transferring to the new database.
The current plan is that data will be transferred, including the in progress and open audits. The systems will not be available in parallel. The old system will go into a read-only mode, so it can still be referenced if needed, but once we make the switch over, any new data entry will have to be done in the new system.
Thank you. Next question. What if an auditor accepts the audit, but then decides later that the audit needs to be scheduled with another auditor? Will the CP have the ability to update the auditor and remove it off their queue?
Yeah, so the CP has always the possibility to manage the audit, means it's possible to withdraw the audit order from the current auditor and assign it to a new auditor.
Thank you. Is the auditor or the supplier / client responsible to update and add the process list?
This is the responsibility of the auditor. So in the preparation section, there's the possibility to manage the process list. And also within the stage 2, there is the possibility to update the process list.
Do you have to click Save and Validate for the data to be applied, or just click Save?
It's possible to just click on Save. The Save and Validate is just an indicator, so you would see if there's something missing.
Thank you. Is the process of accepting the audit the same for the team leader and the team member auditors?
This is just relevant for the team leader. So just the team leader needs to accept the audit order.
Thank you. Who is responsible for audit planning, CB admin or auditor?
The audit planning, so the preparation of the audit order, is in the responsibility of the CB entry admin. So the CB creates the audit order and assigns it then to an auditor.
Thank you. Next question, I think, is for you, Verena. Do we enter a username and password at the landing page?
There is a login page, and there you have the possibility to enter your username and the password. If you have currently an account in the old OASIS system, you will receive with the go live a link to create a new username and password for the new OASIS version. If you do not have an account yet, then there is the possibility to go to a page where you can create or can register to a new account.
Perfect, thank you. In surveillance and recertification audits, is it possible to bring processes from previous audits?
Currently, this is not implemented, but it's already on the roadmap, so we already received that feedback.
Hold on, let me just scroll to the next question. Me putting myself into the position of the person who asked the question. I see many audits listed. Will there be any specific time frame to accept the audit? Can we reject the audit also?
You have filter possibilities in the audit, in this audit order overview. In this audit order overview is also the audit times. So the auditor would see the audit times when the CP scheduled the audit. And of course, the auditor needs to accept the audit before the audit should take place. And there is no reject possibility implemented.
Perfect, thank you. Before I head over to the next question, I just want to repeat what I've said at the beginning, because I've received a couple of questions about administrative topics, the release date of OASIS v3. And once again, we have a specific landing page for those topics. There you will also find a contact form where you can address those questions. Today is purely a technical training, and I would ask you to keep your questions to the technical or the process side of things. Thank you. So we will have 3 more questions before we head over to the next segment. Who can delete an incorrectly created audit?
The CB entry admin. So the CB entry admin has the possibility to manage all the audits from the CB, and there is also the possibility to delete audits.
Thank you. Will it be possible to work in multitask? I mean, 2 views in parallel.
Yeah, so in an audit team, also the co-auditors have the possibility to open the audit order and to see the information of the audit order.
Perfect. Excuse me, this question, I just had to decipher it a little. In the event of a re-audit, does it need to be done for stage 1 and stage 2?
If we're talking about the recertification, then there is just the stage 2, so no stage 1 is needed. The stage 1 is available for initial audits.
Perfect. Thank you, Verena. And that concludes this Q&A section. And as promised, when we started this Q&A section, I will now show you the video introduction I promised you at the very beginning that we couldn't show you at the very beginning. So it's going to be a quick video introduction for this webinar from Intect US CEO Jake Lewin and IAQG representative Eric Jeffries, who have a few words to say. Some of you may be familiar with them, and I just want to quickly show that and share that with you before we head over to audit stage 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the OASIS version 3 introductory webinar series. My name is Jake Lewin. I'm the CEO of Intact US. Intact Group of Companies is a audit and certification technology organization. We've been developing audit and certification technology since 2001. We have offices in Austria, where our headquarters is, the United States, where I am, Germany, the UK, Switzerland, and even an office in Australia. We've been working on the new OASIS version 3 as a special implementation of our platform for over a year now. We're very proud to say that now we're able to introduce you to it and to help you become familiar with its features, functionalities, and how we will work together in the future. It's an immense honor for us to work with the IAQG because your mission into quality and safety in aerospace is so vital to the world. And we see it as a huge step forward and a huge honor. So we hope to work with you all for many years to come. This is only the beginning. And from here, let's go on this journey together. And thank you very much for your time and attention. We'll be taking questions as we go throughout this webinar series. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Eric Jeffries. I'm the current chair of the IAQG's Other Party Management Team. I want to thank you for joining our session today. As Jake mentioned, this has been an effort that's been ongoing for over a year, so we're really excited to share the results with you. You will be receiving additional information in the near future concerning transition, but our focus today is solely on the platform itself. We're going to walk through how it works and how you can use it to be successful. We are really confident that this new platform is going to help us execute our mission of driving improvement across aviation, space, and defense. We appreciate your contribution to that effort and your willingness to learn a new platform. So thanks again, and let's jump into the session.
Perfect. So that was the video introduction we wanted to show to all of you in the beginning. Thank you for listening. And now we'll head right over to the next segment, which is going to deal with stage 1. Please enjoy and don't forget to use the Q&A function during and once we're in the following Q&A segment.
So in this stage 1, I have here now different sections. So the section to enter the preconditions, to enter business and customer information, the stage 1 checklist, to enter stage 1 specific data, and the stage 1 summary. In this case, I'm here in this precondition section. You see here again the standard, and you have the possibility to enter the information here. So this QMS document review, the audit scope, so the proposed certification scope. The scope, for example, I can copy a scope from an old audit. It's possible to use the formatting possibilities, so to highlight something in bold, or also to have a bullet list or a numbered list. You can change the font, the size. So you have here a lot of possibilities. In this case, you have the possibility to select non-applicable clauses. So if I click here on Manage, then I have a list here of the clauses. It's also possible to use the search functionality. If I enter here 5.1, then I have just clauses where 5.1 is entered here. So in this case, just use some clauses here. I click on Finished. And I would see here now which clauses are non-applicable. And in the checklist, these clauses are automatically answered with non-applicable. And then I can click here on Save and Validate. And I can see here I entered all the needed information. In this business and customer information, for example, you have the possibility to enter business information and the customer information. If I would click here now on Save and Validate, then you would see that there is business information missing. In this case, I enter here this information. You can see here there is an info icon. So there's a text which is helpful for auditors. This case also. You have everywhere copy and paste functionality. I enter here the customer information. And simply click on Done. If I click now on Save and Validate, you can see that the validation is now finished because I entered the needed information. In this stage 1 checklist, you can see now that the clauses where we said that these are non-applicable clauses, they are already predefined here as non-applicable. And for all the other clauses, I would have the possibility to set the checklist answer. You can see here the whole chapter. So if I want to give an answer for the whole chapter, then there's a message if I really want to set the result for the whole chapter, and then every question within this chapter would be answered with this result. Example on planning, if we click on no, then everything underneath planning is set to no. The auditor has the possibility to enter a comment for each checklist item. In this case, it would be possible to answer all the chapters for the stage 1 checklist. Stage 1 specific data. So in this case, the auditor has the possibility to enter the key customer performance, just by clicking on this add new row. If something is wrong, then it would be possible to simply click into the box and change it, or with the delete icon, it's possible to remove the whole line. In these fields, you have again the possibility to use the formatting area here. For example, make a bullet list. Organization approval, simply click on this add new row and you can enter the data there. And here it's the same. Here you have the possibility to enter the other information. So this is simply the same as in the old system. And we can save it. In the stage 1 summary, you have again a save and validate. So if I click on save and validate, I would see I need to enter a lot of information. So what was the team leader, the certification structure type. So you would see here at the top which fields are still missing. If I want to remove that again, I can click here on this unhide icon. Here I have the possibility to enter the areas of concern. Here I have the possibility to enter the team leader recommendations. And here down below, there is the sign off of the stage 1 audit. So I need to select who was the organization representative for the sign off and the audit team leader and the date from the sign off. The disclaimer statement. And if I click now on save and validate, you can see that I entered all mandatory fields.
Perfect. So that was stage 1, and we've already received a bunch of questions. If you still have more, feel free to still send them in now. We'll try to answer as many as possible in this 10-minute Q&A segment. I apologize in advance if we can't get to all of them. And let me reassure you, it's not because we don't like you or because we don't like your question. The reason is just we probably won't be able to get through all of the questions, and we try to answer as many as possible, and we try to prioritize those that will provide the most value to the most amount of people. So thank you for understanding. And if we happen to not get to your question, you can use the landing page I talked about in the beginning, and I will talk about again in the end to ask those questions. Perfect. So let's get right to it. First question. Is there the function for OASIS to automatically save data?
In some areas. So for example, if we work on the checklist, then there is an autosave functionality. If you work within standard fields or standard sections, then there is an save button.
Thank you. Will it be possible to change format data? I mean, standard format against US format.
Yeah, that's possible. So in the profile of the login, a user has the possibility to change the format of the date fields and time fields. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a spell check function embedded in the application?
Since this is a web-based application, you can use the spell check functionality of your browser.
Thank you. In the stage 1 checklist, are comments mandatory or not?
No, the comments are not mandatory in the stage 1 checklist.
What are the 3 icons on the left on the stage 1 checklist for?
In the checklist, you have the possibility to see if there were previous identified nonconformities. You have the possibility to reset the answer of the checklist question, and you have the possibility to upload files to an checklist question.
Thank you. Will multiple stage 1 reports be possible, for example, in a multi-site client?
Yeah, so the system has the possibility to do combined audits. We are currently checking some small things regarding the stage 2 audit to use combined audit function.
Does the database work offline?
Currently not, but it's the goal to implement an offline functionality.
Yeah,
you.
the Intact platform has an offline app that works on tablets and mobiles. We are not turning it on when we first launched the new version of OASIS, as we understand that the change from one platform to another is going to be enough of a transition for people. We want them to get used to the new platform before we start trying to have them work with an offline audit app. But it is there and it will be turned on in the future.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg and Verena. How to add supporting documents?
I'm not completely sure what supporting documents means in this case, but as mentioned, it's possible to upload files to an audit order, to a checklist, also to findings. So yeah, not sure if this answers the question.
I think so. Thank you. Are the mandatory fields identified in the tool, like with an asterisk, a star mark, or something like that?
In some areas, but in other areas, you have the validation possibility. So then you would see at the top of the page a message that some fields are missing on the screen.
Thank you. Can I link comments, statements, or responses to objective evidence files stored outside OASIS?
I'm not completely sure what this question is about. Greg, do you have an idea?
I think what they're referring to is, linking when they're doing comments or certain, finding stuff, linking to outside files. I don't think we have any way for you to link to outside files, but you can upload files at various points in the process. So the answer is probably, it depends on where. We certainly have many places where you can add or upload a file as documentation or objective evidence or other stuff, but it's probably not available on every single field. So.
Thank you. Before we head on over to the next question, let me just repeat what I've said before, because I've received a complaint about a question being dismissed. Once again, let me reassure you, it's not because we don't like you or your questions, but when we get 2 or 3 questions dealing with the same topics, we combine them into one. Also, we can't get to all of them, and we can't answer administrative questions today. So I apologize if your question wasn't answered, but let me assure you, we try to get to as many questions as possible. is there any option where the tool can identify the missing data?
I mean, the validation is the option. So if you did not enter something in a mandatory field, then you would get a validation message, and then you know that you need to enter the data there.
Thank you.
I will point out though that in this version of OASIS rather than the previous version, the validation message or the fact that you still have data to complete will let you click and go directly to that item versus trying to have to go figure out what was missed. So I think it'll be a little more intuitive.
Thank you, Greg. Can you apply a copy and paste function? For example, copying something from Microsoft Word.
Yeah, so that's possible. So you can copy the text into the platform.
Thank you. Can you make tables in the comment boxes?
There is no table functionality there, but you have the possibility to copy a table from Word into the comment box, and this table will be then displayed there.
Thank you. The next one, I think, is for you, Greg. Will there be some kind of test audit available to check out the OASIS v3 functionality in advance before actually undergoing an official audit?
We don't have anything like that planned. There will be step-by-step, kind of in addition to these videos, walkthrough documentation. And I guess there's certainly nothing stopping a CB for creating an audit for an auditor to go through the process, and then just not publish anything officially at the end. So it's something I'll take a note of because there's nothing along those lines planned at this point.
Thank you. Perfect. So we'll do 3 more questions until we head over to the next segment. Currently, once again, me putting myself in the position of the person asking the question, currently the CB is not approving stage 1 reports if we don't write comments. Can you verify that comments are not required?
Greg, is this something you can answer? Is it a requirement at IAQG?
I don't know. I'm not the standards expert. I don't believe the comments on stage 1 are a mandatory field that we haven't designated a mandatory field, which means you could complete the audit. Whether the CV rejects it for that, I don't know. If we can certainly take a note, I guess, and go check to see if the standard requires that comment, at which point we could make it a mandatory field. But at the moment, we don't have any insight into why the CB would be doing that if it's not part of the standard.
Thank you. In the current OASIS version, there is a section supporting information for CB review. Is there a similar functionality in OASIS v3?
To be honest, we need to check and evaluate.
I mean, the short answer is there are many places where you could attach files to your audit documentation, whether it's part of like answering a specific question or part of a findings, an NCR and findings, or just at the end adding and uploading documents. So, and I believe, Verena, they can label those and comment on what they're for when they're doing the general file uploads. So I assume you could do what you're asking, which is just provide your own additional documents to the CB as supporting documentation using that functionality.
Perfect. Thank you. And if you have an add-on question or if you have any more questions in that direction, once again, there is a landing page for those types of questions specifically, and you will be sent the link via email, and I will show you the link again at the end of this webinar. So let's get to the last question before we head over to the next segment. Can you save stage 1 without filling in all mandatory fields?
Yeah, exactly. That's possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Verena. And that concludes this Q&A section as we head over to stage 2. Once again, I want to remind you to use the Q&A function during and afterwards as we enter the Q&A segment. So enjoy, and we look forward to your questions.
In this stage 2, the first section is this QMS processes, where you can see the processes which have been entered in the preparation already, but it's possible that you change it or that you delete a process or that you add a new process also here within this stage 2. In this case, applicable sites. So it's possible to choose the sites which are relevant for the process. So in this case, we have the headquarter and one site. So if, for example, this process is relevant for both, I simply select here both and I can save and close it. And then you would see here that marketing is relevant for both sites. Operations, for example, if I click here on Manage Sites and on this plus icon, I can choose, for example, that this is just relevant on one site. I click on Save and Close. Then you would see here that Operations is just applicable for this site and not for Live Gold 1. The same for Sales. Let's use just Live Gold 1. And if I click on Save and Close, then you would see here that Sales is just relevant for Live Gold 1. If I click on Manage Sites again, if I want to add a new site, then I can click on Finish, and then it's for both sites. Or also to delete, I can use the delete icon. And it's again relevant just for one site. Then I have the possibility here to add the peer. I click on that icon. It's possible to enter the information here, to enter applicable clauses. Fill out all the needed fields. Here I can click on the Add New Row icon. I can click on Done. Here is this process effectiveness matrix. You can choose one option. It's possible to attach files if needed. Then I have here the sign off. So I need to select an auditor and the organization representative. And I need to select the disclaimer statement. And if I click on Save and Close now, you can see that the peer is related now to the marketing, and you can see the process effectiveness level here. In the stage 2 checklist, I have now the possibility to answer each clause for each process. So you have here the possibility to switch between the processes. So for example, if I highlight that here to yes, so 4.4 for marketing, I have the possibility for operations to define another answer. So in this case, for example, we say here no non-conform, then I have the possibility here to raise a non-conformity just by using that arrow, and then I click here in this box, and I have the possibility here to open the details of the non-conformity. In this case, I see here the supplier information, audit information. I can see here the requirement, the clause. I have the possibility to select the finding level. In this case, let's use minor. it's possible to enter here the statement of the nonconformity. The issue date is pre-selected to today's date. I would have the possibility to define the deadline, and the due date is calculated automatically based on the issue date and the deadline. I can click now here and save and close, and you would see here down below that for this operations process, there was a finding issue for the 4.4.1 clause. But you would have now here the possibility to answer all the clauses for the processes, and you have the possibility for each chapter to create a summary. So this is a text field where you can use the editing possibilities. And then you would see it here in this summary. If I click now here on save and validate, it says finished because now each clause has an answer for one of the processes.
Perfect. So that concludes stage 2 and leads us to the Q&A section. Verena, are you ready?
Yes.
Perfect. So let's get started right away. First question, is it possible to convert a report to a PDF file?
We have an audit report implemented, and this audit report can be printed as a PDF file.
Thank you. Can more than one auditor save data at the same time without deleting each other's comment?
This is possible within the checklist. So in the checklist, multiple auditors can work on the checklist, and they can see the other auditors' information.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to rephrase this question a little bit to make it more straightforward. What happens if I forget to add a side to a process? Will a notification appear in some way?
If you forget to add a side to a process, that's a good question. I would need to check. I'm not sure if it's mandatory to do that. I mean, it makes no sense to create a process without having a site attached.
Perfect. So we will take that as input and check it once again. Thank you for that question. Referring to performance, is the comment field mandatory?
Comment fields are not mandatory, no.
Thank you. Is it required to enter a peer for each side of the same process?
No, it's not required to enter a peer. You have the possibility, but it's not mandatory.
Perfect. Thank you. Is it expected that all clauses are filled with yes, no, or NE per processes, or yes for the specific clauses only with the summary?
You would have the possibility to answer each clause for each process, but it's not mandatory. You have to answer at least each clause for one of the processes.
Thank you. Is it needed to select the applicable site if it is a single site audit?
Yeah, you have to select the site.
Thank you. does the stage 2 report replace the current peer?
You have the possibility to create the peer in the stage 2. Not completely sure what this question is about. Greg, do you know more?
No, I don't. Again, you can create peers in the stage 2 report, but it doesn't replace them. So I think the answer is no.
Okay, thank you. Once again, I'm gonna rephrase this question. Can you change the issue date? So if the issue date is pre-filled with the information it has, can it be changed?
The issue date of the non-conformity? Or which issue
Yes.
date? Okay. Yeah, it's predefined, but you can change it. Yeah.
Perfect. And sorry for being unclear here. Hold on, let me just go to the next question. What does N/E mean in a checklist?
Not evaluated.
Thank you. When we select the clause number in the peer, will the same clause number reflect the checklist/QMS matrix for the particular process?
Checklist. Not completely sure what the question is about, but you would have in the audit report, you would see to which clause and to which process the peer belongs. Not sure if this answers the whole question.
Perfect. And once again, a reminder here, if it doesn't answer your whole question, or if you have a follow-up question, you can always bring that to the OASIS V3 landing page and ask it there in full. Hold on. Has the matrix been cancelled in OASIS V3?
I don't know what the question is about. Greg, do you know?
No, unless they're referring to the pair matrix, which is in there. The results of the KPIs and other stuff. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Perfect, thank you. So maybe to the question inner, maybe you can rephrase the question and ask it once again. Do we need to enter applicable clauses in the peer, and are these validated against the clauses entered in the checklist?
You have the possibility to enter the applicable clauses in the peer, but they are not connected to the checklist. So they are not then pre-filled automatically.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we've run through all of the questions we can answer in this segment, and that leads us over to the last segment of today, which is findings and closing the audit. Once again, I ask you to use the Q&A function and ask us as many questions as you like. We will try to get to as many of them as possible. And this will conclude the last segment of today. So there will be the segment I'm about to show you and one more Q&A function following that, meaning we will finish a little early today.
In the findings section, you would have an overview of all the findings. So in this case, we identified one finding, and you would see here, if we have multiple findings, then you would have here a list of all the findings with the details we entered within the findings form. Okay, and in this summary and sign off, you have the possibility to enter here objectives, the scope of the audit. This justification is pre-filled from the justification from the stage 1 section. In this case, we have no previous nonconformities, but if there were previous audits and nonconformities, you would see here the summary of these nonconformities. In this case, you see here the summary of the nonconformities from this audit. You would have here the possibility to enter the conclusion. Then we have here the recommendation. And in this case, the auditor has the possibility to confirm the data of this stage 2. We have two possibilities here to do a single approval for all the sites. And then the auditor has the possibility to enter here a note from the organization representative and the organization representative. And the team leader is set automatically here and has the possibility to enter the note from the team leader. Another option would be to do it based on each site. So if I untick here this single approval, then I would have the possibility to sign off for all the sites individually. So then it's possible to choose the site here and to select the audit team leader. Let's do a single approval for that audit. If I click here on Save and Validate, I can see everything is finished. If I go to the Files section, there is a validation if an audit plan has been uploaded. In this case, it was already uploaded by the CB entry admin, but also the auditor would have the possibility to upload here an audit plan. It's possible to go to the validation section and then you can see what's still missing. But in this case, just the result is missing. So if I go to the end step, then the auditor has the possibility to enter the result of the audit. And this is if the auditor would enter requirements not fulfilled, then there would be no certification and no review. In this case, we have requirements partly fulfilled because we have a nonconformity where we need to do the follow-up. So the auditor would need to choose partly fulfilled, and then the next step would be the findings follow-up, for example. If there were no findings identified, then the auditor would choose requirements fulfilled, and the next step would be audit completed technical review. So in this case, the reviewer would have the possibility to review this audit order. In this case, let's choose requirements partly fulfilled with the findings follow-up. So the auditor would continue with the findings follow-up with just clicking on the sign off and clicking here on OK. In this case, the audit is now in this findings follow-up section. So if I click on this finding follow-up section, I can see here now my audit order. And with selecting the audit order and editing the audit order, the auditor has the possibility here in this findings section to open the finding and to sign the finding to request the corrective action from the supplier. So with clicking here on sign, you would see here now that the NCR status is in corrective action requested. And if I go now in to the system as a supplier, so I'm here now as a supplier, and the supplier would have now here in the dashboard the findings available. So the supplier can click on the finding. The supplier has the possibility to enter the contact person for that finding. The supplier would see here all the information, the statement of nonconformity. The supplier would have the possibility to enter the planned completion date, to enter corrective action, the root cause, the containment and correction. Would see the objective evidence. The supplier would have the possibility to save it for later or the possibility to sign it and to submit the finding. When the supplier submits the finding, then you would get a notification, so an email notification. And if you access the order, then you would see here corrective action has been submitted. So you can click on that. You would see here now planned completion date. You would see here what the supplier entered. And also if files are attached, you can access the files there. You would have the possibility to enter the data same as in the old system. So details, evidence of implementation, for example, and you would have the possibility, if not everything was fine, to request the corrective action again or to close the finding. It would be possible to use the communications tab. So it's possible to send the supplier a note and he would be able to read the note and to respond here if this is needed. And of course, you have a history as well. So everything what has been changed is visible here in the history. But in this case, let's say we close the finding. Once every findings are closed, the auditor would have the possibility to define now that the requirements are fulfilled. And in this case, the next step would be audit completed and technical reviewer. So if I click here on sign off and OK, this audit would be shown here now in the completed section. The auditor would still have the possibility to open it, but the editing functionality is not available anymore. So nothing can be changed from the auditor.
Perfect. So that leads us into the last Q&A section of today's webinar. Greg and Verena, I hope you're ready.
Yes.
Perfect. So let's get started with the first question. For the available OASIS, an auditor can choose other team members' names and change his or her finding content or cancel it. Is it still available in OASIS v3?
It's still possible that the audit team works together on a finding and all the changes are tracked in the history.
Thank you. The QMS matrix is a required part of OASIS at this time. Is it still required in the v3?
If you create a peer, then yes, but not every.
I think what they're actually referring to might be what they used to call, I think, the old Form 2, which was literally just kind of a table they had to fill out that they cross-reference stuff on. I don't know that that matrix exists in the same way in the new version of OASIS, but I believe all of the same data on sites and processes and pair, all that data is still collected and entered. That's overall, I would say, true of the new system. Our goal was not that what you had to do changed, just how you did it. The goal with part of this next generation was to get away from the forms, make it a little more process and other driven. So things are going to work differently, but I don't think what you're required to do should be changing dramatically. And if we've missed anything, then we'll have to address that. But on that comment, I know there's been a lot of people asking about the go lives and the other stuff, which is Paul has been kind enough to point out we have not been addressing during these seminars. There was an update sent out yesterday to the group. Originally, we were supposed to launch this on January 1st, based on the results of feedback, user acceptance testing, and other stuff. We are now going to be giving 30 days notice for when that goes live. We do have things we want to address as a result of the user acceptance testing. So there is no official date at this point, but there is a communication on how the transition will be handled and how you'll be notified of when that date is selected. So that's all we're going to say on that here. But I figured since we sent an update out yesterday, we'd give a little bit of the verbal one today.
Perfect. Thank you, Greg. Next question. Is the audit plan file mandatory?
Yeah, so the system is configured that at least one file with the file type audit plan needs to be uploaded to an audit order.
Perfect. Will any trainings or guidelines be provided to clients to complete NCRs and use OASIS v3?
Greg, do you want to answer?
Well, the video session that we did that includes their roles yesterday will be available as an ongoing kind of technical walkthrough, once it's been uploaded for people to reference, as well as the same way there were originally OASIS help step-by-step walkthroughs about how to handle things. Those will also be updated for the V3 version. So between those, hopefully people can handle their role.
Thank you, Greg. Looks like containment is always required in this new system. Is this true?
No, it's just required that you choose if containment is required, yes or no.
Thank you. Does the system send an auditor notification when a supplier enters information and saves, or just when the CA is submitted?
The auditor gets a notification when the corrective action has been submitted. So not on every change of the corrective action, what the customer or the client does.
Perfect. I'm not really sure I understand this question, but maybe you might, Greg. Non-conformity or finding is different. Will it be changed before the database will be released?
I'm not sure I understand the question entirely either, so I don't know how to answer. I'm not an expert on the actual standards and documenting and the process itself. Just kind of handling the project from a project management perspective. I'd have to talk to, Tim Lee, Brian Blunt, someone who's more of an expert on the standards and the implementations.
Perfect.
But I'll take a note.
We'll take a note. And as I mentioned before, you're always welcome to ask that question on the IAQG OASIS v3 landing page, where we will be able to help you further. And if we misunderstood your question, feel free to type it again. Next question. How do we reject NCR back to the auditee?
So you have the possibility to use the communication tab to to enter a note for the auditee, and then you have the possibility to change the status of the NCR and send the NCR again back to the auditee.
Thank you. Greg, maybe this is a question for you. Once again, it's rather organizational, but I still wanted to ask it because it's come up a couple of times. Will OASIS issue a training certificate for the attendees of today's session?
We hadn't planned to, but then I'm not really the person that would be doing that. Again, it's a valid question. I will have to see if they wanted to do that. I'm not sure what purpose that would serve, but you know, we certainly know who attended and stayed on the session for the training. So
Perfect. So once again, any questions related to that, I will direct you to the OASIS V3 landing page where you will be answered. Next question. If an audit gets rejected during the technical review process, which queue will the audit appear and where can it be edited?
The audit would be in progress, so you would have the audit available in the audit order overview, and you would see that the audit order has been reassigned by the reviewer to the auditor.
Perfect, thank you. Once the audit is signed off from lead auditor, can only the CP open it again after technical review?
Yeah, so this is possible that the CP does it, and yeah, just the CP or IAQG system administrators.
Thank you. Can the peers and nonconformities be printed separately from the audit report?
Currently, just the audit report is available. So if it is a requirement to print it separately, then we would need to have a look.
Thank you. So there will be 2 more questions before we enter the closing words. For the findings follow-up, if we need to re-audit stage 2, how would I do that?
I mean, you have the possibility to move the order back to audit in progress and to change something on the stage 2 audit. Or another possibility would be that the CB creates a second audit.
Perfect. And then on to the last question. If an audit has been rejected, where would an auditor find it? Where would it be seen?
If an audit has been rejected by the reviewer, I guess, then the audit would be available in this audit order overview, and the auditor can work again on the audit order.
Perfect. Thank you, Verena. And this concludes the last Q&A segment of today. Thanks to both of our panelists. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Verena, for taking on all the questions. As promised in the beginning, I will, in just a minute, show you once again the link to the official OASIS V3 landing page. You will also be sent this link via email if you have registered for this webinar, which I assume you have, otherwise you wouldn't be here. If you've got sent the link by a colleague or something like that, you can still write us and we will send you the link directly. And I just want to say thanks to all of you for attending. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for signing up to the webinar and asking questions. I will share it now with you. Once again, the link to the OASIS V3 landing page, where you will be able to find the webinar recordings and ask further questions using the contact form on there. And that already brings us to the end of the official part of today. I will leave the slide up for a couple more minutes. So for those of you who already want to write down the link, you can do so. The slide will be up for 2 more minutes and the webinar will be open for 2 more minutes. And that just leaves me to say thanks for attending and have a great day or a good evening, depending on from wherever it is you're joining us. Thanks for being here.